Hi, my name is Chris Clark. I'm the Artistic Director of Cinema St. Louis, presenters of the 29th Annual Whitaker St. Louis International Film Festival. I'm here today with guest director Tom Putnam, director of the narrative feature film The Dark Divide. We've been aware of Tom and his work for a long time. Way back in 2003 in the olden times, we played a great short subject of his called Tom Hits His Head, about Tom hitting his head. We've been aware of and following his work over time. Tom was the producer of the riveting documentary Marwan Call, later made into a feature film starring Steve Carell back in 2010 or so, I believe. And we've always sort of vaguely been in touch. A few months ago, I received a random email from a distributor I'd never worked on, and they talked about this adventure film starring David Cross about a butterfly expert wandering around the woods in the Pacific Northwest. Lo and behold, it was directed by SLIF alum Tom Putnam. I've been in touch with him all along the way. I love your crafty woodsy scene behind you there, made by your son, so he gets full photo credit. So this distributor, Venture Entertainment, mostly does adventure films and bicycling films and hiking and stuff like that. This is one of their few narrative features, but it dovetails so nicely into their mission. And I just got to jump right now. How did you get involved in this sprawling tale? And how did David Cross get involved? And it was just, I sat down, I pushed the button as soon as I got the link, and I just sat there and I just loved every second of it. It was so exciting and entertaining. He was a great casting. And I'm just talking. It's about you, Tom. Tell us about this film.
I can listen to you talk about how much you like it all day. Thank you. Yeah, it's been about a 10-year process to get the film made. It started off, just about 10 years ago to the day. A friend of mine gave me the book to read and said, I think you're going to love this. Please don't try to make it into a movie, which was almost really good advice.
So let me jump in. So the book he's talking about is about a real person, Dr. Robert Pyle, who is the leading lepidopterist in North America and the world, butterfly and moth expert. And the story is about what really happened in this crazy adventure. Proceed, sir.
Sure, that was good.
Yeah.
So Robert Pyle, who wrote the book, it's a nonfiction book. He also wrote that Audubon Field Guide to North American Butterflies. He has Vladimir Nabokov's butterfly collection. That's really what he's known for. But back in 1995, he got a Guggenheim grant and took what ended up being a 6-week trek through Washington's Gifford Pinchot National Forest, which is one of America's largest undeveloped wildlands. And it ended up becoming an amazing, life-changing journey for him, but also took a look at everything from Bigfoot. This is where people always have those Bigfoot sightings you hear about, to the role of nature in our lives, to the future of the Gifford Pinchot, logging. It covered such a breadth of information. And for me, it was a really amazing book to read because I grew up a few miles from there and spent my childhood hiking and fishing and camping in a lot of the locations where his book and his true story took place. And I live in LA now. My son is 12, and his favorite things in the world to do are camping and hiking and fishing. And this book just reminded me of how important it was to have those things in my life, how much I miss them now, and what it would mean to me to be able to spend more time outdoors and just kind of the healing power of nature. And without giving too much away about the film, he goes through some pretty major life changes leading up to his journey and then through his journey. So talked to Bob, who wrote the book, and just immediately kind of fell in love with him too, and spent the next 10 years getting this movie made. The movie's actually not just based on this book. The book is actually called Where Bigfoot Walks, Crossing the Dark Divide, but it's based on 7 of his other books too. So we took like a 25-year period in his life and kind of compacted it into a couple of months. So we shot the film last year, May of last year, and finished it. And in March, we were getting ready to start showing it to the world. And then you might have heard about this coronavirus thing that happened. And we were trying to figure out what to do with the movie. And as we sort of started to like sneak copies to people and show it to people, we started to just get this really amazing feedback where everybody said, I think now is a really good time. We're all cooped up in our houses. like being able to spend 90 minutes hiking through this amazing location. And if you haven't seen the film, we go to some pretty out there places that a film crew's probably not supposed to be in. And
There
you
are
really
as
feel like you're
many
out
there's
there.
many reasons you shouldn't have been out there filming as there were reasons he shouldn't have been out there hiking on his own. So it's just the fact that it was made in these places is just as inspiring, as the story itself.
And I spend a lot of my time doing documentaries. And one of the things that I was excited about with this film was taking a small crew to these rugged locations, but with, actors that you recognize, and having the audience feel like they've gone on this journey too. I mean, you saw the film. I mean, there's scenes where he's
Yes.
hanging off a cliff or in freezing cold rapids or in lava tunnels deep under the ground. And you see David Cross there. That is David Cross there. There's not a lot of trick happening.
Yeah.
So that's part of the experience for sure.
I won't talk about it either, but you referenced that there's some loss and grieving that he's going through as part of the process. That part spoke to me as much as the outside, about being outside and the outdoors and everything too. That journey, that part of it was a very important part of the film to me, and I thought it worked across the board. So that made it a superior film for me in watching that actor so closely. He is in every second of every frame, just about, unless he's in danger underwater, it's too dark, but you see his face all the time. And I was just mesmerized by his performance. So how did you connect Robert Pyle with David Cross? Tobias Funke, many people know him as from Arrested Development. So how did you get from A to B?
It was about 8 years of writing and rewriting the script and getting to know Robert Pyle really well. And I think over time, a little bit of myself made it into the script as too. And when it came time to cast the film, I knew that I wanted to have somebody who could hold the audience's attention, surprise the audience. They had an actor who they hadn't seen do something like this before, and somebody who could take things that were funny or heartbreaking, and there's a lot of things that are both, and really ground those and make the character feel very, very human. I mean, there's 35 minutes of the movie where there's no dialogue. It's just him hiking. And David's name pretty quickly rose to the top of the list. And he's a stand-up comic. He's used to keeping people's attention on him. I think he can be very funny when he needs to be, and he's done some serious work. And I thought he was incredible in those things. Nobody's seen him as a lead in a film before, let alone something like this. So the thought of that exciting people was something I was really into. And then he was in LA, and we sat down to meet, and we ended up drinking for 3 hours, but we just talked about the movie. And I just realized, oh my gosh, this is a guy I can collaborate with. We spent 6 months together basically rewriting the script so that it was kind of a little more tailored for him. And he just became, not just an actor, he's a producer on the movie, and just really a collaborator. I mean, there's so many times we were out in the middle of nowhere and there's a thunderstorm coming in, and the scene I spent 10 years writing, all of a sudden you can't film it. And thank God we had him, because he comes from the comedy and improvisational background. So, he ended up being our secret weapon in terms of figuring out how to kind of roll with the punches and keep filming no matter what crazy things were going on in our world.
So, such a great story. I could talk for hours about all the individual scenes and things that happen, but I want people to experience it. If you're familiar with Dr. Pyle's work, then you'll know about some of these things. But, if you just like a story of human empowerment mixed with the great outdoors, my God, watch this film. It's one of our special events. We're showing it for limited time on 3 different weekends. Tom, don't tell the other filmmakers, but this is one of my favorite films of the whole festival. No, I'm not kidding. It really is.
Thank you.
And it was the first film that I booked this year. I had a weird summer. I didn't know how to do my job all that well. And after doing it for all this time, this is, a new environment. But I saw that film and it inspired me too. I booked it right away. And then I got in the mood to sit down and, start actually working and put the festival together. So, thanks for this, wonderful story. I think everything about it is magic. And I refuse, sir, to wait another 17 years to show another of your films. So let's get to that, shall we?
All right. I'll do my best to get you something maybe for next year.
I think that's fair enough. Okay, Tom, it was great connecting. Thanks very much. And
Thank you.
Everybody will enjoy The Dark Divide, even a fraction of as much as I did, clearly. It's a great film. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Take care.